great white shark, one of the most feared and highly revered predators in our oceans today, a true apex predator ruling across the 7 seas. But the great white and its shark relatives haven't always been at the top of their food chain. In fact, millions of years ago, well before the great white stalked the modern-day seaways of our planet, the oceans of the Earth were dominated by the marine reptiles. During the Mesozoic era, the marine reptiles ruled over the ocean in many different shapes and forms, from the majestic elasmosaurids to the mighty mosasaurs. The prehistoric oceans of the world were firmly under the rule of the reptiles, but towards the end of the Mesozoic era, a new predator would rise to the top of the food chain. Coming from an ancient though relatively humble lineage of cartilaginous fish, this predator would well earn its title as the Mosasaur Butcher. A preview of things to come in the future, this Ginsu shark, as we've come to know it today, was the great white of its time. This amazing animal not only survived, but thrived in what some have called the world's deadliest seas. Welcome one and all to an Epoch Now Shark Week special on Cratoxyrhina, the original Jaws. The first ever Cratoxyrhina fossil material was discovered in the Southern Ham Grey Pit near Lewes, Sussex, by English paleontologist Gideon Mantell. Initially, Mantell described the 8 teeth found to belong to modern-day sharks, with the smaller teeth identified as the common smoothhound, and the larger teeth being identified as belonging to the smooth hammerhead. In 1843, Swiss naturalist Louis Agassiz published a 3rd volume of his book, Research on Fossil Fish, stating that he examined the 8 fossil teeth described by Mantell. Agassiz concluded that the teeth actually belonged to a new and now invalid genus of extinct shark named Oxyrhina. The 8 teeth would be classified as one of 4 species named Oxyrhina mantellii, named in honor of Mantell. Later, the species name would be changed to Mantelli due to the second I in the species name being dropped due to a spelling mistake. During the rest of the 19th century, multiple different species of extinct sharks would be described, only to later be declared as synonyms for Oxyrhina mantelli. In fact, there were so many genera and species of fossil sharks being described that at the time it was believed that Oxyrhina mantelli had potentially over 30 different synonyms. This would all change in 1890, with one of the first complete skeletons of this shark being found by the famous American paleontologist Charles H. Sternberg in the Niobrara Formation, located in West Kansas. This skeleton would later be described in a 1907 paper proving to be so complete that the 250 teeth found in its mouth completely destroyed said 30 different synonyms named prior. The skeleton was later sold by Sternberg to the Ludwig Maximilian University of Munich, only to unfortunately be destroyed in 1944 by Allied bombings during World War II. However, the now and forever unnamed specimen wasn't the only Oxyrhina mantelli specimen to be described. A second specimen was found by Charles Sternberg's son, George F. Sternberg, shortly after in 1894, which was later named KUVP-247, and consisted of a set of jaws with 150 teeth visible, including a disarticulated vertebral column. George would later find 2 more additional skeletons between 1950 and 1965, respectively, later named as FHSM VP-323 and FHSM VP-2187. FHSM VP-323 consists of a partial skeleton that preserves another set of jaws, a pair of 5 gills, and some vertebrae. Later, FHSM VP-2187 is far more complete, housing pectoral girdles, fins, jaws, teeth, and even sets of scales preserved in their natural positions. In addition, a 4th skeleton would later be found by a fossil collector named Tim Baskell in 1968, later named KUVP-69102. Back in 1958, Soviet paleontologist Leonid Gluckman found that there was enough anatomical differences in the teeth to warrant Oxyrhina mentale to be described as a new genus, now named Cretoxyrhina, meaning Cretaceous sharp nose. In addition, Gluckman identified a new species of Cretoxyrhina based on earlier teeth found in Albian-aged rocks in southwest Kazakhstan named C. denticulata. Decades later, in 2000, Russian paleontologist Viktor Zalesko unexpectedly attempted to invalidate the genus as a whole, synonymizing it with a new genus and species named Pseudosaurus tomosus, while also describing another new species named P. vacronensis. However, other paleontologists disagreed with Zalesko's classification, and this was finally corrected in a 2013 paper, validating Cretoxyrhina with a 3rd new species. This same paper also identified a 4th species named C. agassiensis, which was originally classified as its own genus described in 2010, known from teeth found in Lake Agassiz, found in Manitoba, Canada. Thanks to several well-preserved complete skeletons found in the American Midwest, along with hundreds of other teeth found nearby across the world, Cretoxyrhina has become one of the most well-known sharks of the Cretaceous, giving us enough material to even differentiate this shark with other extant relatives, such as the famous great white shark. While most depictions of Cretoxyrhina depict the type species, the genus overall actually varied in vastly different size ranges. Cretoxyrhina agassiensis was not only the most recently named species of the genus, but it's also the smallest species known based on the size of the tooth it's known from, only estimated to reach 1.29 meters or 4.2 feet. Both Cretoxyrhina denticulata and C. vacronensis are estimated to be even larger at 4 meters or 13 feet as adults, weighing in at 744 kilograms or 1,640 pounds. Although both species rival each other in size, they are only half the size of the type species, Cretoxyrhina mentale, which reaches a total body length of over 7 meters or 23 feet, and it would have weighed around 3,400 kilograms or 3.7 short tons. A 2013 publication identified a sin-type tooth from England that is believed to have belonged to an even larger specimen, reaching 8 meters or 26 feet in body length and weighing in at 4,944 kilograms or 5.45 short tons. This not only makes C. mentale the largest species for the genus, but they even exceeded great whites in overall body size, with the largest great white shark specimen ever found, a female, measuring 5.83 meters or 19.1 feet and weighing 2,000 kilograms or 4,410 pounds. Cretoxyrhina belongs to an order of sharks called lamniforms, otherwise known as mackerel sharks, typically occupying many different ecological roles as open ocean hunters. Mackerel sharks have both extinct and extant groups that vary in many different shapes and sizes, and have thrived and evolved across the world's oceans since they first appeared in the early Cretaceous, with a potential late Jurassic record. Modern-day relatives include the likes of thresher sharks, basking sharks, true mackerel sharks like the great white and mako, goblin sharks, and many other different groups. Extinct groups include the otodontids, or megatoothed sharks, like Otodus megalodon, anacoracids like the extinct crow shark, Squalocorax, the recently named Aquila lamnids, otherwise known as eagle sharks, the recently included specialized Tychodontids, and many other different groups. Cretoxyrhina belongs to its own respective family, aptly named as Cretoxyrhinidae, which as of now contains only its namesake, Cretoxyrhina. Other genera were included in this group in the past, like Dallasiella and Plicatolamna. However, both genera have had history of major phylogenetic debate. The only other genus that might actually belong in Cratoxyrhinidae is Acrolamna, which was suggested in a 2024 publication. While we still don't know anything about how Cratoxyrhinidae first evolved, more genera will hopefully be discovered and described in the near future, giving us a better understanding of this rather elusive group. The common name for Cratoxyrhina is the Ginsu shark, which was coined by paleontologist Michael J. Everhart and Kenshu Shimada in 1999, and for good reason. The Ginsu shark common name was coined because its teeth acted similarly to Ginsu knives, theoretically having a feeding mechanism that is compared to slicing and dicing, and considering its fossil record of leaving tooth marks and embedded teeth, it rightfully deserves such a name. Cratoxyrhina, especially the type species, was a highly active apex predator that heavily relied on its eyesight, consuming anything that it could sink its teeth into. However, Cratoxyrhina was not always like this, as each species within the genus represents a chronospecies. That means each species of Cratoxyrhina is directly descended from the species that appeared previously in the geologic record. Cratoxyrhina vacronensis was the earliest species to appear in the fossil record, first appearing in the Albian-aged early Cretaceous rocks of Texas, Poland, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan. Cratoxyrhina denticulata, which was discovered in Canada and England, first appeared in the early Cenomanian of the late Cretaceous, which would later lead to the evolution of the Canadian C. agassiensis in the middle Cenomanian, and the almost global C. mantelli in the late Cenomanian. Interestingly, there is evidence that C. agassiensis persisted until the Middle Turonian stage, indicating that both it and C. mantelli coexisted. Based on the formations Cratoxyrhina vacronensis has been found in, this early species already had a very wide geographic range, being present across the ancient Tethys, Atlantic, and western interior seaways. Considering its size, based on its tooth morphology, and what's been found in the same time and place, it's believed by paleontologists that C. vacronensis potentially occupied an ecological niche similar to modern-day long-finned makos, as their teeth are strikingly similar to juvenile specimens of said mako. This indicates a diet of predominantly smaller bony fish, cephalopods, and elasmobranchs. As for competition, it would have competed with other sharks that would have occupied similar niches, such as Squalocorax, and it would have also been prey itself to large marine reptiles like elasmosaurids, pliosaurids, and ichthyosaurs like Platypterygius. Cratoxyrhina denticulata, which also more likely had a geographic range that stretched from the North Atlantic to the western interior seaway, possibly had a similar diet considering their equal size. Just like C. vacronensis as well, C. denticulata competed with several different types of sharks, and it would have also been targeted as food from other large marine reptiles. As for the smallest species, C. agassiensis, its fossil record is more restricted to the western interior seaway, and it was more than likely a target for many different marine creatures, with its diet potentially consisting of smaller animals like different kinds of cephalopods, fish like Encotis, and several different types of pycnodonts, marine reptiles like the Dolichosaur coniosaurus, and seabirds. It would have competed with other sharks and fish that had a similar trophic level in the food chain, and it would have been prey to fish ranging from similar sizes to Pachyrhizotis to fish as large as the 20-foot Xiphactinus, and it would have been an easy target for the marine reptiles listed prior, including the short-necked polycotyledonid plesiosaurs, depending on their size. Cratoxyrhina mantelli, unlike the last three species listed, does have irrefutable evidence showing what kinds of creatures it preyed on. C. mantelli was the only species within the genus to achieve an ecological role as the apex predator, ruling over not just the western interior, Atlantic, and the Tethys seaways, but nearly all across the world's seas. Cratoxyrhina mantelli would have eaten a plethora of different marine life. Stomach contents from the specimen KUVP-247 show that these sharks had a diet on other large predatory animals, as remains of the large ichthyodectid fish, Xiphactinus, and the remains of a small mosasaur have been found. Bite marks and even teeth have been found with the remains of several marine reptiles as well, which are in most cases associated with the remains of mosasaurs. However, it is unclear to many paleontologists if this was either a sign of scavenging or an attack, considering most of these mosasaur remains have shown no signs of healing, Additionally, Cratoxyrhina is hypothesized to have also had a diet on other cephalopods, fish, sea turtles like the giant protostegids, Hesperornithine seabirds, polycotylid and elasmosaurid plesiosaurs. Of course, the specific genus these sharks would have fed on all depend on the region they're found in. In addition, a 2018 publication described a shark tooth embedded in the neck vertebral column of the famous sea pterosaur Pteranodon as well, which indicates that these sharks even hunted the large flying reptiles that soared over the oceans. Although it is also unclear if this was a sign of scavenging or not, as C. mantelli has also been found to scavenge on the remains of dinosaur corpses washed out to sea, like the Hadrosaur Claosaurus and the Nodosaur Niobrarasaurus. Putting aside its voracious diet, this species was around long enough to compete with the last of the pliosaurs, as well as the mosasaurs that replaced them. The pliosaurs it competed with include Megacephalosaurus and Brachiochenius. In fact, it's believed that the rise of predatory fish like Cratoxyrhina are the reason for their downfall. The large mosasaurs that would later compete with the shark consist of apex predators like Tylosaurus, Mosasaurus itself, Prognathodon, the recently named Gnathomortus, and much more. Overall, Cratoxyrhina had played a rather special role in the world's oceans, especially C. mantelli, as one of the world's first shark apex predators. While not commonly known to the wider public, Cratoxyrhina has made several notable appearances in pop culture, such as movies and games, starting back in the 90s with the television show Paleo World, and later a short cameo in the 1997 film Land Before Time 5: Mysterious Island. Cratoxyrhina later made its first major appearance in the 2007 film Sea Monsters: A Prehistoric Adventure, and its accompanying promotional shorts Back from the Dead. In 2010, Cratoxyrhina made an appearance in the episode T-Rex of the Deep for the television documentary series Monsters Resurrected, or its alternative title, Megabeast. In the same year, it was also featured in its own episode of the popular children's show Dinosaur Train. In 2012, Cratoxyrhina was seen fighting a Tylosaurus in the documentary series Prehistoric in the episode titled Dallas. Most recently, Cratoxyrhina would have another cameo in the internet docuseries Dinosauria. As for video games, appearances in video games are much more sparse. Back in 2007, our beloved Ginsu shark made an appearance in Sea Monsters: A Prehistoric Adventure video game for the Nintendo Wii, released alongside the documentary. Cratoxyrhina would later be a playable character in the mobile game Hungry Shark Heroes, which went live in September 2018. Unfortunately, this game would be discontinued on April 13, 2020. As of today, it is set to appear as a starter tier shark in the as of yet unreleased mobile game Hungry Shark Primal. However, it is possible that Cratoxyrhina made an appearance in the 2010 docufilm Sea Rex: Journey to a Prehistoric World, depicting a 23-foot-long unnamed species of shark. It was shown facing off a Prognathodon, only to be abruptly slain off-screen by said opposing mosasaur. It also may have made an appearance in the 2011 docuseries Dinosaur Revolution as a pack of sharks hunting baby mosasaurs. Though these sharks remain unnamed in the show, the official website, which no longer exists, stated that these are Squalocorax individuals. However, others have noted that the models used more closely match the size, shape, and general build of a Cratoxyrhina rather than a Squalocorax, which would have been much smaller than what was depicted in the show and had a more tiger shark-esque build. Cratoxyrhina was one of the top predators during its time, and few contenders would have been able to step toe-to-toe with the one and only Ginsu shark. Unfortunately, however, like all of the marine life from the western interior seaway, this fish did end up going extinct. Since it peaked in size during the Carnation stage, the fossil record for Cratoxyrhina is shown to have declined in various different regions gradually, locally becoming extinct until its eventual demise in the late Campanian. It's believed that its extinction coincided with the rise of the newly evolved mosasaurs, which began to diversify rapidly during the Turonian stage. Large mosasaurs like Tylosaurus, Mosasaurus itself, Prognathodon, and many others began to occupy similar ecological niches, outcompeting the Ginsu shark across the world. In fact, it's even believed that the extinction of Cratoxyrhina may have helped mosasaurs increase in diversity. Mosasaurs have also led to the extinction of other lamniform sharks, like Tychodus, which were outcompeted by mosasaurs such as globidens. Additionally, the global drop in sea levels, especially in places like the Western Interior Seaway, likely destroyed the pelagic environments that Cratoxyrhina preferred to thrive in. However, this does not explain its extinction elsewhere in the world, and in order to understand what caused it to die out in the rest of the world's seas, we still need to uncover more fossil evidence pertaining to its extinction. However, as it stands now, the loss of its preferred pelagic environments and the rise of the mosasaurs seem to be the best theory as to why this animal did eventually end up going extinct. And in the end, while Cratoxyrhina did end up going extinct and the world's first shark apex predator disappeared from the world forever, this would not be the end of the story of the sharks. In fact, after the mass extinction that wiped out the dinosaurs as well as the marine reptiles which contributed to the downfall of the Ginsu sharks, the survivors would begin to rapidly diversify and once again rule the world's oceans, this time without any monster reptiles to compete with. And ultimately, this allowed the sharks to reach sizes almost unthinkable before, culminating in some of the most massive fish ever to swim on planet Earth, of which would become some of the most proficient apex predators the seven seas have ever seen. However, despite the recent success, there is, unfortunately, a new apex predator on the rise, one that threatens to end the reign of sharks forever. Just as the mosasaurs once drove Cratoxyrhina into extinction, we as humans may now be doing much the same, but this time on a much larger scale. For decades, overhunting and the destruction of natural habitats has caused the deaths of millions of sharks worldwide. Many once plentiful creatures are now endangered or worse, on the verge of complete extinction. Even animals such as the mighty great white shark are currently classed as vulnerable on the IUCN scale, and if something isn't done soon, many of these incredible animals may soon face extinction themselves. Thankfully, however, in recent years, conservation efforts to save these sharks from extinction have been gaining more and more steam, as many people learn more and more about these incredible animals. Slowly but surely, the fear that once gripped the whole world has turned to fascination as people begin to understand these animals even better, which will hopefully lead to full recoveries of these animals, and we can preserve the legacy of this ancient order far into the future. And though the Ginsu shark may be gone forever, the story it can tell us about all sharks may end up helping people understand that these animals do need our help, because no matter how fierce or awe-inspiring, these animals can indeed go extinct. Even sharks like the mighty Cratoxyrhina, the original Jaws. Thank you for watching our Shark Week special on the original Jaws, Cratoxyrhina. This video was a blast to make for the team, and we really hope you've enjoyed it. The Ginsu shark was a top-tier predator that we love to learn more about and share with all of you. This video was directed by The Primal Earth, narrated by myself, The Dinosaur Hunter, scripted by Spino Dragon 145, The Primal Earth, Crimson Acro, Straight Up Murph, and Mike MC 9797. Edited by The Primal Earth, Crimson Acro, Mike MC 9797, Legit Eliminator, Straight Up Murph, and Spino Dragon 145. The graphic designers for this video were myself and Mephiles, and the researchers for this video were Spino Dragon 145, Mike MC 9797, and Crimson Acro. Additionally, in the spirit of Shark Week and shark conservation as a whole, we've decided to use this video to support a charity dedicated to shark conservation. Based in Chatham, Massachusetts, the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy is dedicated to the support of scientific research, improvement of public safety, and the education of the community to inspire white shark conservation. With help from viewers like you, they will be able to continue their mission to vindicate this beautiful yet misunderstood creature and protect it so it may continue to swim the ocean unmolested for the foreseeable future. And a link to this organization will be posted in the description below. And with that, thank you guys for watching, and we will see all of you in the next video.